in the CIP and reviewing recommendations related to the TSIF. We will also discuss a supplemental appropriation that's intended to financially assist taxi cab drivers who saw overall profit decline since early March due to the rising cost of gas for their vehicles. It's my understanding that we've received feedback from stakeholders in relation to the TSIF conversation and that some of those guests are here today, but maybe that's not true. Thank you for taking the time to weigh in with us. Dr. Orland, could you lead us through the first item?
Sure. The first item is a review of the executive's amendments or revisions to the CIP that he sent over on April 18th. This is deferred from last Monday's meeting when we basically ran out of time. Just recall before we go any further that right now the Council's draft CIP is about $150 to $200 million higher than what would fit under spending affordability. So in this packet, Personally, I didn't recommend adding any money over what was the Council's already approved. Obviously, you can, but just know that whatever you add here, at some point, within the next week or two, there's going to be a reconciliation, and a lot more will have to be cut and deferred to fit within the guidelines. So with that as a sort of a sober initial point, first two items are actually follow-ups from last winter. One, there was the Goshen Road South project, which you might recall the DOT completed a study looking at a scaled-down version of improvements to Goshen Road. It had previously been programmed as a four-lane divided highway for 3.5 miles. They came back with an alternative, the no-build spot improvements alternative, which was about half as much as what the original project was. But you unanimously felt like we should not go forward with doing the planning for that project either. However, Mr. Reamer suggested, wanted to get information as to what it would cost if that project were strictly limited to bikeway and ped improvements. DOT is given a very rough estimate of that as being about $36.7 million, which is still far less than the no-build spot improvements alternative. And what I'm suggesting is that if you want to proceed with this project, the next thing would be to go through preliminary engineering, basically phase 2 of facility planning for this project, which would cost $4 million, $2 million a year. And again, if you want to do this, my suggestion is you don't add this until the back end of the CIP, $2 million in FY27 and $2 million in 28, and would now be called the Facility Planning Pedestrian Facilities Bikeways Project. I would note that this particular bikeway is a relatively high priority in the Bikeway Master Plan that was approved back in 2018. It's Tier 2 out of 5 tiers. So I guess that's your first decision as whether to do anything with this.
Thank you, colleagues, and thanks for scoping out how we could potentially move forward and, recognizing CIP constraints. I think it would be great if we could do that engineering in 27 and 28. So do you want to share us a little, anything else you gleaned from your review here?
I'll defer to Mr. Couples for that analysis.
Just to state that it's a very quick and dirty estimate that we provided for the total cost there, and the whole point of the facility planning would be then to come back with 35% plans and an accurate cost estimate for consideration and whether or not to move forward.
Right. And the idea here again was what's really missing here is the pedestrian and bike infrastructure. The roadway capacity is, relatively speaking, not so bad. So if we wanted to do something, prioritizing that investment would make the most sense. I'll suggest we try to fit that in, and if we can, that'd be great. And if we can't, we can try again next year.
Sure. Good. 3-0.
The next project follow-up is the White Flint Metro Station North Entrance. You recall in the approved CIP, you approved 25% of the funds for this project with design bidding at FY24. FY23. The executive had recommended delaying this one more year so the design would start in FY24. At the time you took this up in the winter, I suggested that perhaps in the follow-up discussions we were to have with the state over the Opportunity Lanes project, there may be the opportunity to use more of the opportunity funds, toll revenue, to make up the difference in the cost of this project. Unfortunately, that hasn't happened. We haven't had any meetings with the state over this, and so there's no progress in that respect. Doesn't mean it couldn't happen, but it certainly hasn't happened to this point. One thing that has happened since, however, is the state, the General Assembly has approved $4.5 million in state aid, $2 million in FY24 and $2.5 million in FY25. These are both pre-authorizations. However, Melanie Wenger insists that pre-authorizations, particularly ones that are proposed by the governor and one party and approved by the legislature of another, almost always really do happen in those years. So I think we can book these. So we're beginning $4.5 million from the state over at FY24 and 25. The shortfall of the cost of the project, the overall cost is $34.8 million. Again, you programmed already 25% of it, so there's 26.1 that's left, and this could provide 4.5 of that. And so what I'm suggesting is that we use this money to supplant, or actually to add to the cost in expenditures in FY24 and 25, so that virtually all of the design would be 100% funded in those years. Right now it's only 25% funded. That gets us to a point where by the end of FY25, with just a little extra money in 25, we'll have the project fully designed, and hopefully by then all the rest of the money can be identified. It'd still be more than $20 million more. Now, Mr. Friedson had recommended last winter, and he recommends again, funding the entire project now and accelerating the start of it to FY23, again using this $4.5 million to offset part of that increase. But it would mean still having to add another $21.6 million in county funding now, which, and again, I pointed out, we're already $150 to $200 million over, so I would suggest that we go with my recommendation on this.
Yeah. Here, here. It's a good recommendation.
And it's consistent with Councilmember Friedson's request as well, correct?
Sorry?
Well, it doesn't fully, I mean, Councilman Friedson suggesting we pay for the whole thing. This is moving as fast as we could move anyway, I think. Right?
Well, it doesn't. You could start it in FY23. You could accelerate it, but we have a problem both in terms of the total amount we're over and also how much we're over in the earlier years. So there'd be that much pressure on FY23. And furthermore, there's still uncertainty about the development on the White Flint property as to whether or not the development there might actually incorporate the northern entrance into a building. And if that's the case, the design would be very different. And hopefully within the next year, we'll know the answer to that. And maybe Mr. Conklin can weigh in on that.
I don't have a lot of detail on the progress of the development plans, but that is correct. We would anticipate that if it were incorporated into the proposed buildings on that site, it would not be the same design as if it's a standalone structure.
Is there a problem with spending money on engineering? Because I'm pretty skeptical that there's going to be an answer to a question of whether there's a building there in a year.
Yeah, there is some problem with that. The nature of the construction would be different. There wouldn't be roof structures. The stair and escalators would enter.
So the engineering is really designing an entrance that would be highly contingent upon what's happening around it.
It is, right. Yes.
Well, I think we should proceed with this, and the county executive sometimes talks about his desire to have something there. Far as I can tell, what he's talking about would require the county to pay for it. So there's like a lot of money that would have to be proposed to do that. So, we don't have a proposal to build that.
No, and we didn't include anything here just simply because we didn't program any of the 24, 25 pre-authorizations because they're funds that haven't actually been authorized yet, but there's an anticipation that they will be. So
if
we didn't make any analysis or conclusion about this. The council staff has generated.
So if we were to use the state funding to begin engineering, we wouldn't actually begin until there was some clearer sense of whether we were designing a station entrance that was connected to a project or not.
Right. I mean, both JLL and Park and Planning have recommended that we wait and do it together. That's
The other thing is, remember, this money is FY '24 and FY '25 money, so
Okay, so
we
it's
weren't
not this
beginning
year
state aid in FY '23 anyway.
Right. Okay, so then it's all lined up. It seems like it's fine.
Good, 24.
Okay.
And Dr. Orland, just real quick, can you state again what the total CIP is over? It's over 100 something allocated?
We're roughly between 150 and 200 million dollars over right now.
Okay. It's a good North Star to keep in mind as we continue these conversations.
Yeah, I mean, you should still at this stage, just because we're late in the stage, you shouldn't penalize yourself because we know you have this information. You still should put in what you want, that's my advice, is that as long as you're somewhat prudent about it, because reconciliation is going to look at everything up to the end of this week. And just because you made a decision maybe in March on some things, it shouldn't make it less, just because we're here at the beginning of May, something in the news coming up, if you think you like this project or like something, whether it's this or something else, I'd say you should go for it, but then know that we're going to have to cut everything back.
Right. These are all priorities, and then we'll have to further prioritize our priorities.
Right. So is that unanimous?
Sounds good.
Yeah.
It is.
Okay, with that, we go to the projects the executive sent over on April 18th. The first is bridge renovation. The exec's recommending, well, you already approved $3.5 million supplemental to fix a soon-to-be failing culvert in Germantown. The exec's recommending a further $3 million to this project, $1.5 million each in FY '23 and '24, to address other more potential culvert failures. He points out that with climate change and a lot of other problems going on right now, there's likely to be more and more of these kinds of problems. I'm not recommending adding this money right now. If there is an imminent failure that's coming up, it could be covered in the reserve, and we could revisit this in a new CIP. But again, I'm looking at that large deficit we have, and to add something more right now, I don't think would be prudent. So I'm not recommending approving that additional $3 million.
If I could offer, this is an area when you were discussing the storm drain CIP, that getting a little further ahead of these maintenance items that eventually lead to facility closures or other more significant failures of infrastructure was something you wanted to see. In this particular case, this would allow us address backlog of known deteriorated culverts more quickly, so that when we're surprised, we're not surprised and dealing with things that we already know are failing. It doesn't solve the problem, but it makes some progress towards that. So I just offer that as to why this recommendation is made.
Gary Nalvin, OMB. On the subject of the capital reserve, just wanted to underscore the need to set aside funding for cost increases in some of our projects. We've seen fairly significant cost increases with bids exceeding estimated costs by 50% or more.
So you're saying be cautious?
Yes. We'd like to reserve the capacity in this project since we know that these bridge repairs and culvert repairs are going to be needed.
I think he's agreeing with me.
Clear.
Again, this wasn't in the executive's original recommendations, either in January or in March. I think what happened here was we got a lot of state aid, and there was some state aid that was displacing county funds, and they were looking for a useful way to spend this money. And yes, if you had more money, it'd be useful to be able to have more, backup for this kind of contingency. But again, I don't think the council has that luxury now.
I agree with council staff.
So this is a tough one because clearly, when we're looking at infrastructure, we want to do everything we can to prevent getting to the place where it's starting to fall apart. And I understand that that's what the intention here is. And again, with climate change, we know that it's water and excess water and rain and water runoff that is our major problem. And so I'm going to agree with the county executive on this one.
I am too.
I'm sorry, Tom.
I am too.
You're agreeing with
I am.
them?
Yes. Rather more than.
Unanimous? Okay.
No, it's not unanimous. I'm keeping my vote. I think the council has a lot of priorities for this next fiscal year in our capital budget. And so I would recommend that we keep this funding available to the overall council priorities and not fund it this way. I mean, I would rather have the contingency fall upon the reserve and see the council CIP get funded, so
Okay.
I think,
A 2-to-1 in favor of the executive's recommendation. Okay. Garrett Park Road Bridge, the cost estimate has gone up by $1.66 million since it was transmitted. DOT has accelerated the design so the construction would start in the spring of '24 and completed that winter. I recommend concurring with the executive. This is an actual fact that cost has gone up, so.
Agree.
that's fine.
Okay. Street tree preservation, again, same story here as with bridge renovation. The exec's recommending $500,000 more to FY '23. There's $3.1 million in the project now each year. This would make it to 3.6. And really for the same reason. Of course, it's worthwhile spending more money on tree maintenance, but this was a late add because there was more money available, and with everything else that's going on, I can't recommend for it.
Could this be allocated toward tree removal and planting instead?
This would be for block tree pruning of neighborhoods. So basically DOT goes through the neighborhood, neighborhood by neighborhood, to the degree the funding allows for it, and trims back the trees to basically extend the life of the trees. But it's not reactive to an individual tree that's reported dead or dying or some safety problem at one location. It basically goes through the entire neighborhood and trims them all back.
Council staff's accurate. This is predominantly keeping trees healthy so that we're not in that position of having to remove and replace as many. It works hand in hand with the other programs, obviously, addressing backlog of tree issues.
I would accept staff's recommendation. I mean, how much oversubscribed are we so far in our?
Today, 3 million.
No, not just today. I mean the whole
Oh,
CIP.
I don't know. Don't have that number handy. Most of I would say a large part of that $150 to $200 million is transportation. I mean, for example, there's $55 million just for the tunnel in Bethesda. It was not in the executive's budget in the 6 years, and you have it in there. And there, the Forest Glen underpass is another one that was the executive had delayed it, so part of the money was outside the 6-year period. He decided not to, but that adds money compared to the exec. There are other projects like that.
All the money that we add now, or the new commitments we make now, are competing with existing commitments that we already have recommended as a committee, so I would not support that.
I'm just looking at the PDF, which I think is what Dr. Rowland just expanded upon.
It's on Circle 15.
Yeah.
Which is, you'll see the total in FY '23 is proposed by the executives $3.6 million, as opposed to, what it had been was $3.1 million. And you see $3.1 million in the later years. And I'm recommending keeping it at $3.1 million each year.
Street trees? What are your thoughts?
Mine? Mr. Chair,
Yeah.
street trees. I've said it before. I hear from the public all the time. We have been behind for many years. If the executive wants to spend more money, I'm all for that.
I agree.
On this matter.
Good one.
Okay. The next project falls in the category of really good news. The executive recommended adding $20 million to cover the cost of, an underestimated cost of the mezzanine for the Bethesda South Metro Station. However, we received from the General Assembly $12 million in aid to WMATA, actually directly for this project, which means we could reduce the cost increase in the county's project by $12 million down to $8 million. And then of that $8 million, we also received $2 million of federal funds to the county directly that could supplant county funds. So this effectively reduces the general obligation bond portion of this project by $14 million. So it brings it down to $6 million. I can't imagine anybody would be opposed to that. Okay. Then we have the BRT projects and the related US 29 pedestrian bicycle improvements. There's a lot of moving of money around between projects, but for the most part, what's happening here is the county is showing the opportunity lane funding money a little bit later than what the executive sent over originally, but it's the same amount. What he didn't program was, and this is consistent with what Mr. Conklin mentioned about the other project a few minutes ago, there's $7 million that was pre-authorized for the BRT system in Montgomery County by the state. And again, we're told by OIR that we're safe to program that. And so as it turns out, there's also exactly $7 million in the CIP now for doing the planning for the North Bethesda Transitway and the New Hampshire Avenue BRT. And so the first three bullets there in the middle of page 4 effectively programs that $7 million for, supplants $7 million of county funds for state aid on those two projects. It doesn't change the scope of those projects, doesn't change the timing of those projects, it just changes where the money comes from. And the other two, the second and third bullets, just sort of reorganizes the FY23 authorization money and the FY24 authorization money so the dollars line up. The fourth bullet is just sort of, the fourth bullet has to do with when you appropriate money for the US 29 Phase 2 project, which is the project where you're going to be adding dedicated lanes on 29 all the way from Burtonsville down to Silver Spring, at least most of the way. And the executive would recommend appropriating all of the money for the design, but you made the decision last year that you weren't going to appropriate any more money for that until you made the decision as to whether it was the median lane option or the managed lane option. DOT is almost finished with that study. My understanding is we'll come back to that probably this summer, and you can make a decision then, and part of that decision could then be to appropriate the rest of this money for whichever option that you pick.
The appropriation issue is not that big of an issue for us because, as council staff said, we're not going to be in a position to advance that design until the design alternatives is selected. So if you prefer to move in that direction, I think that's all right. And again, we did not program FY24 pre-authorization dollars as was suggested here. On this particular instance, I would acknowledge that we have lots of scope that we aren't yet funded for construction. So I wouldn't necessarily recommend that you supplant additional county funds with this, knowing that we have more project to fund for construction beyond what we currently have funded. But that's my only comment on council staff's recommendations.
And unless you actually do some kind of reorganization like this, you won't be able to supplant the money for a state aid for county funds, and then our gap will be bigger.
So explain this a little bit more. So the increase in funding to $11.25 million, but then make the ultimate decision when the report comes out in December?
On 29, that's correct, yeah. Well, it's not, it's
Summer.
sometime this summer, not yet scheduled.
Got it. Okay, summer.
Which way are you leaning?
We are still working through the results of the analysis. As before, the alternatives don't have a great degree of spread in their performance.
I think we're,
One more bullet point, or no? Were you done with your readout?
I think, what was your
okay.
decision? Are you okay with this?
Yeah.
Council staff's recommendation? Yeah.
Okay, thanks. Okay, the next is the Great Seneca Science Corridor transit improvements. The council has already approved monies to construct the, basically the pink and lime lines. There are a total of 6 lines that are being built eventually. 2 of them are already funded for construction, be completed in FY24. However, the thing that has not been approved yet are the buses that would actually run on those routes. The buses would have to be included in this year's budget because it takes a year for the buses to be delivered, and so they'll be in time for the FY24. They have to be approved this year. The General Assembly budgeted $11.3 million of state aid for zero-emission buses. The executive is recommending adding these funds to the project. The cost of the 13 buses that are being needed for these 2 lines is actually $13.845 million, which is about $2.5 million more than what's proposed. And so initially what's going to have to happen is that if this follows through and nothing else changes, that a few of the 13 buses will have to be diesel buses for about a year or so until we can get to the next year. Now, the General Assembly also pre-authorized $5 million in FY24 for zero-emission buses. And again, this is the thing where we at least as council staff, based on advice from OIR, are saying we're counting, we're programming the pre-authorized money. So what I'm recommending here is that the expenditure schedule show $11.3 million of state in FY23, and the remaining $2,545,000 in FY24 for this project, and then the rest of the pre-authorized money, which is $2,455,000, be used to supplant county funds in the Ride-on Bus Fleet project. So we could end up saving, compared to the executive, $2,455,000 in county funds that otherwise would be county funds. And this would pay for all of the buses needed for the pink and lime lines. Again, not all of them, maybe 10 or 11 of them in time for when the 2 lines open, and then the other 2 when the following year.
If it's helpful, the executive was taking approximately the same approach as council staff described, except we did not commit the $24 to this project because we haven't received them. They haven't actually been voted through yet. The only comment I would make is we are seeing cost increases in bus and bus delivery, and know we're already falling behind a replacement cycle. So again, I would recommend not supplanting the ride-on fleet replacement, but leaving these funds there if you do indeed program the 24 pre-authorized dollars.
I'm fine with staff's recommendation.
sure. 3-0.
Okay. Then we get to Bike Projects. The first is the executives recommending funding for 3 neighborhood greenways. Total cost added $2.3 million as being county funds. However, the council so far, you've already approved these same greenways to be built in the same years, FY23 and 24, but also 3 more greenways in FY25 and 26. So I'm not recommending approval of this revision from the executive because you've already done more.
Amen.
We were just filling some of the gap with the funds that were freed up.
Again, what happened here was that because the state aids was able to fund a lot of the things the executive wanted, but there was left some county funds on the table, he was able to recommend some things he didn't recommend before. But again, you've already recommended more, so, in this particular project.
Great.
You okay? All right.
Without objection.
Okay, the Bikeway program minor projects, there's money in the state's budget for $2 million to to build shared use paths along segments of Norwood Road between 108 and Ashton Forest Way. This is all part of the Heritage Triangle Trail. This is additional money. This is not, or for additional trail, it's not in the program now, so I'm recommending approval. Again, it's state aid added to it. It doesn't add to the county's burden. Okay. The Bowie Mill Road Bikeway, the executive had recommended keeping this bikeway on the schedule in the approved CIP, and the General Assembly budgeted $1.5 million for the project, and the executive had recommended using that $1.5 million to offset county funds, but also to start the design somewhat earlier, in other words, in FY23. The committee's already recommended approving the acceleration of this project by a full year, and so to be consistent with what you've done so far, I'm recommending also supplanting $1.5 million in county funding with state aid, but on the schedule you approved earlier, not the somewhat deferred schedule the executive's recommending, which I want to point out again is an accelerated schedule from what's in the approved CIP.
Great.
So in other words, I'm not recommending what the executive's recommending here. We'll see what happens at reconciliation, but for now, I think
We're trying to accelerate it. The executive has kind of reaffirmed an existing position not to accelerate it, if I'm understanding correctly.
well, he's using the money to accelerate it
also,
some
just not as
in
much.
FY23, just not as much.
Okay, so we'll keep it on the accelerated track that we have sought, and if, stick with that.
Yep.
All right. Cherry Hill Road Bike Facility. This is here where the General Assembly has budgeted $4 million of state aid for design and construction of this bike facility in White Oak, Farrow and White Oak area. The council had already recommended approving $1.25 million in facility planning and county funds for this, but with the state aid, this gets the whole project done, and so there's no reason for the county to council to program this $1.25 million in the facility planning project. So basically concurring with the executive and also recommending we delete the $1.25 million that you've tentatively added to the facility planning for this.
If I could offer just one thing on this one and the next one, there isn't a facility plan, so these are rough order of magnitude estimates for both of these projects. We think it's sufficient to complete them, but that's not based on any plan completed to date. I don't think that affects your outcome. I'm just saying that to know.
You're right. The $4 million doesn't necessarily guarantee it's going to be totally finished. But it's definitely further along than what the council has proved so far. So it's a positive.
Okay, without objection.
And the same kind of story here for the Norwood Road shared use path. You recall Mr. Jawanda last year didn't get in the budget. This year, the council's so far agreeing with programming $750,000 for facility planning for a shared use path on Norwood Road between New Hampshire Avenue and Norbeck Road. However, there is a $4 million, which is the $4 million has been set aside for this project as well, which would certainly cover facility planning and more, and could very well pay for the entire cost of the project, if not close to it. So, same kind of recommendation here.
I agree with the executive. It's an important project for pedestrian-deprived access to school. Yeah, it's important.
Okay.
Agreed.
Yeah.
The next one is the Oak Drive, Maryland 27 sidewalk. The executive has recommended, the General Assembly's budgeted $1 million for the project, and the executive is recommending supplanting $1 million in county funds. He recommends that the state's $1 million be shown FY24, starting design a year sooner, which would allow land acquisition to begin a year sooner as well. And I also think that's a more realistic schedule, since land acquisition has to be acquired before construction can begin, and the schedule in the CIP up to this point has an overlap there. So I recommend concurring with the executive on this. Okay, and then 2 traffic improvements projects. One is the Pedestrian Safety Program. DOT recently approved a grant. MDOT recently approved a grant of $720,000 to install 4 pedestrian hybrid beacons, 2 in Friendship Heights and 2 in North Bethesda. The total cost is $800,000. The other $80,000 is a county match, but is already in the CIP. So it's no additional money there. And the grant has to be appropriated in FY23 to be able to use it. So I recommend approving the executive's recommendation here. Okay.
Without objection.
And then finally, the White Oak Local Area Transportation Improvements Program. The council resolution approving the LATIP several years ago, 5 years ago now, requires that there be a comprehensive review of this program every 6 years. So for DOT to be able to follow the council's mandate, they have to do the study over the course of the next year, and that study would cost $150,000, and so I'm recommending approval of that to basically follow the council's directive. Okay. All right, with that, that concludes item number 1 for today. Item 2, I was right, 2:15. Oh, yeah? Item 2 is a follow-up on the Transportation Services Improvements Fund from a week ago. As you recall, the executives made a comprehensive proposal to how to use the money, 9 different initiatives, 8 of which would start in FY23, totaling about $2.9 million. Mr. Reamer has proposed a different plan, which is included in your packet, which puts more emphasis on putting more waves on the street and for a longer period of time, and de-emphasizing some other items in the executive's proposal. In the meeting last week, after a very healthy discussion, you talked for almost an hour on it, you asked for feedback from stakeholders on both proposals, or whatever they would like to say. We've received, over the last week, 4 responses, which is in your appendix. 1 from Montgomery Cares, 1 from the Commission on People with Disabilities, 1 from the Commission on Health, and 1 from the Taxi Services Commission. Mr. Ibeck, I don't see here, called me this morning and said he hadn't submitted anything in writing. I said if you wanted to say something today, you'd best come to the meeting, and I'm sure the council would listen to you, but he's not here. So we're not sure where his organization is at. But again, the Taxi Services Commission, on which he serves, has their comments from Ms. Ellis in the packet as well. So it's with that, I turn it back over to the committee as to how they want to decide how to dispense with the TSIF funds.
All right, great. I did have a chance to talk to the drivers yesterday for a bit. It's a complicated story. They support the committee's discussion and the proposal that I put forward, and they also think that this isn't going to solve the problem from their perspective, from the co-op's perspective. They think it's a step forward. But first of all, I want to just go back to the starting point. As the chair said last week, I think the essential point here is that we are trying to create a fleet of wheelchair accessible vehicles. Like, that's the core reason why we charged the fee on the transportation network companies, was to be able to provide those services, because there really wasn't a question as to whether the entrance of Uber or Lyft into the market would change the fundamental dynamics of people generally being able to get access to cabs. It was the core question of who's going to provide for a certain type of vehicle that Uber doesn't pay for and won't provide. And if we don't do something, then we're looking at a future with no wheelchair accessible vehicles, whereas with the traditional taxi fleet model, it's a regulated enterprise, and we could gradually expand our wheelchair accessible vehicles, and we had some on the road before. So that was the key anticipated, gap in the world of on-demand transportation. And that was really, I think, why we initiated the fee. So I'm worried that proposals for how to spend the money now are kind of addressing a symptom of a problem, but not the core, the cause of the problem. And especially with access to transportation for people who use wheelchairs, a significant problem is there's just not enough vehicles out there to provide for a quick scheduling of service. And what we want is, at some point, I don't know what the right number is, I mean, maybe it's hundreds, I don't know. But it's, the goal is to build up a fleet that can meet the needs of people who need transportation and have wheelchairs. Other folks who don't have wheelchairs generally can be served. Then it's really about affordability. I mean, if you walk with assistance, whether it's like a crutches type devices or a walker, like generally a sedan is adequate, I think, for that type of transit. It's the one thing is the wheelchair accessible vehicle where you can move it into the back, and that's really the key issue that we were trying to solve for. So the recommendations that you have for the fund that we've made here are intended to accelerate the deployment of the fleet and to make it more, reasonably economical to actually drive those vehicles. So on the last page of the packet is I think it's the last page, or maybe that's been updated with some of the stakeholder feedback. So, I grant that advisory committees that are concerned about the access of disadvantaged communities to services, will see a great reason to provide more funding. I mean, I think that's kind of what we've received is there's a lot of needs, and why shouldn't we spend some of this money to meet all of these other community needs for transportation? No doubt there are a lot of needs, but again, I think we have to go back to the core reason that we created the fund, which was to enable a private and public sector-based solution with wheelchair accessible vehicles, and to ensure that eventually enough of them are on the road that a person who uses a wheelchair can call for a ride, and a ride can arrive promptly. That's really where we want to get to. And I don't know how far we are from that today. I think that would be actually useful for us to get from DOT a kind of ongoing status, report about the availability of the services and the utilization, because I have to admit, just based on reading what I'm receiving, I don't have a clear sense of that. I'm sure that there are those who do, but I don't have a clear sense of that. So the recommendation that you have here is to not fund items 1, 6, 7, and 9 on that, and then that frees up about $1 million, which then goes to the resources for more vehicles, as well as driver subsidies, essentially, to use those vehicles, so that it is more viable to have drivers who are driving in the wheelchair accessible vehicles, because it doesn't do any good if we buy them, but they're sitting, in a garage. And then we talked about splitting the nonprofit allocation so that it could be some capital, some operating. We've received a lot of different feedback. I have to recognize the Commission on People with Disabilities preferred that we go back to the interdepartmental funding, whereas and not do the nonprofit, whereas HHS has said we really are concerned about doing the nonprofit. So, unfortunately, I think that we have opened the door for, folks to say, well, here's a worthy use, and these are all worthy uses, But I think we have to just focus on what's our goal here, and our goal is to have accessible, on-demand, timely transportation for people who use wheelchairs. And in order to do that, we've got a long ways to go. So I don't think I have any additional changes from what I had first proposed. We can talk through the feedback that we've received. And the last thing I want to say, the co-op is very frustrated, and they feel that the system that has been created they're not able to participate adequately, and they are seeking, they've sent in testimony seeking more like a fund for driver retention and recruitment, that each of the companies that are licensed as providers or as taxi companies basically would be able to use. They say that they're losing drivers, that's the problem from their perspective, that the folks who might drive a wheelchair accessible vehicle now might find that it's better to drive a bus for MCPS or, to just drive for Uber. And so they're letting us know that it's not just the capital, it's not just the number of vehicles, it's whether anyone's willing to drive them, and that there's a problem. Like, it's just the economics of driving these vehicles is not very strong. It's not very favorable. I think we've tried to address that with this revised proposal where there's the per mile payment that you get. We're recommending taking that from 15 cents to 40 cents a mile. And so hopefully that can be a step in the right direction. But I do think we have a strong public interest in ensuring that not only is there an adequate fleet of vehicles, but there are enough drivers who can actually drive them so that the service is available. And I think we need to better understand what is necessary and then ensure that that's in place. I mean, I think that's a core, to me, it's like operating a bus system. It's just a public good that we know the government has to somehow ensure is being provided, adequate wheelchair accessible vehicles. So that's a little background information. Back to you, Glenn.
Can I ask you, if you spoke to Peter yesterday, why did they think increasing the per mile fee and the reimbursement for purchase was not adequate to recruit more drivers?
Well, I have to admit, I don't have a full sense of their dissatisfaction with the per mile payment, because as far as I can understand, that appears to go directly to the driver. It could be that all things said and done, there's just not enough trips that moves the needle on the economics of being a driver. That's all I can think yet. So, they're having a bigger problem, and I think they're looking for a bigger solution. So I don't know. I'm still trying to better learn this, but they like these. I'm not, they certainly express support for these specific proposals, but they're saying that, in essence, it's just a bigger problem. So, I think we could. I actually have a question about the fund too, please. The $3 million that's in there is several years worth of accumulation, right? What is the annual revenue to that fund?
That's in this packet.
If you look in the packet, Mr. Reamer, on pages circles 6 and 7, you see like a 6-year fund display of this program using the executive's proposal. We're starting with basically, and actually this doesn't show the fund balance on here right now, but basically there's revenue being added each year and growing each year. And then you see the drawdowns under each of the proposals the executive had. And of course, there'd be a different set of drawdowns based on your proposal, but wouldn't be too dissimilar, I wouldn't think. And there it is. In the last column on Circle 7, you'll see that the fund balance is about 3.6 million, and you see the balance actually dwindles down to a low of about 700,000 in FY25, but then builds back up again to about $2.2 million in FY28. This is again with the executive's proposal. So your proposal is probably not too dissimilar from that.
So there's, continues to be a fund balance.
Yes.
There's resources
If I could just respond a little bit.
available. Yeah, and can you explain a little bit more about that per mile payment? And
Well, I can't explain all of the dynamics of the taxi industry and the labor challenges there. Certainly, they're much like any driving business, like ours, like MCPS, like others that you talked about, with the challenge of some unpredictability and working for smaller employers in a lease arrangement, often with the owner of the cab. So there's a host of issues that make it a challenging work environment that people may or may not enjoy doing. Clearly, what we had recommended was trying to make sure that there was increased incentive for the driver to make the trips. And a lot of the programs that were in here were about funding the trips and increasing the subsidy for the trips. Precisely for that reason, because if you have the vehicles and no drivers, you haven't solved any problem except a fleet that's not being used. But along those lines, getting the vehicles is more challenging and more costly, so we're having to approach that from both ends of that equation. The feedback that you got in response to the discussion last week, I would say, was not at all dissimilar to what we heard when formulating the executive's recommendation. And as I said in the last work session, I don't think there's a right or wrong answer on how to program these funds. There's a question of how much of this money should, if any, be provided for the nonprofit organizations that are providing wheelchair trips for customers of their programs. Clearly, we have a view that there's some expenditure in that arena that's worthwhile and should be part of this. And in both cases, your recommendation and the executives, the vast majority of the funds are there to support waves by taxi fleets and to encourage taxi drivers to drive the trips. So I don't know that you're going to make a bad decision here. I think you can choose which
competing good
direction you want to
things.
go. They're all competing interests, and the taxi industry has had challenges from before the onset of Lyft and Uber. Those have been exacerbated by Lyft and Uber, and then the pandemic, and they're going to continue to have these, and this is part of the way that we can keep that industry going and viable to meet the public purpose trips you talked about, which is moving people who have no other options to appointments, particularly to appointments, but to other things they need to do as well. And that's why these expenditures are recommended by us the way they are, and by you. I don't think you're achieving a dramatically different set of objectives, just slightly different formulation. The only piece that I would mention that is unique to the executive's proposal and not in what you've recommended is the training program. And you may find that that's better done by the taxi companies, but again, there's oftentimes an unusual relationship between, by unusual I mean not what you would typically expect from an employment relationship between the driver and the taxi operator. And the feedback we got from the taxi customer survey was that was an area where you could really reduce the hesitancy of taxi operators to move wheelchair customers and take wheelchair trips, and hopefully also increase the quality of customer experience that the wheelchair customer has. So that's why we had recommended that. It was directly based on the taxi customer feedback in that one arena. But otherwise, I think you're picking 80, 20, 60, 40, whatever split you think is appropriate between the competing objectives here.
Could I interject something really quick? Maybe this is obvious, but I didn't actually see it in any discussion we've had so far, either last year or now. The per-trip payment for wave taxi cab use and the per-mile payment, is that for all trips that they make or just for trips that carry seniors and disabled folks?
There's different,
You know what I'm saying? If, in
think
other
the
words, you got a wheelchair accessible vehicle.
I'm not 100% certain, but I think the wave trips are all wave trips, whether they're senior.
Yeah,
Not
I have some information that the per trip payment gets triggered only if the wheelchair lift is used.
Okay.
I think it's probably whether or not it's
Because you have a new metering system, right?
trip carrying a wheelchair or not.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. I mean, I just didn't know.
There are
Sorry.
other call and ride payments that are related to that program. So there's a variety of different reimbursements in this.
If I could jump in, so appreciate the conversation, appreciate the due diligence that Councilmember Raymer has brought to the conversation, and all the stakeholders who've weighed in over the last number of days. Appreciate their expediency in doing so, and even they disagree on the best way to use these funds. And I think ultimately our shared objective is clearly to increase usage and allow people to travel around our community who would otherwise have difficulty doing so. But the beauty of this process is this is a one-year budget, and we can try a formula, and if the formula does not show signs of improving the situation, then we can change the formula next year. And for that reason, I think Councilmember Raymer has made a compelling case to try his formula, and I'm willing to do that now and next year, hopefully when we come back, if I come back next year, that we have this conversation, and we'll see what the drawdown has been and how many people have been able to safely get around our community and take it from there.
I agree.
Thank you. And I'll just add, in the next council term, I think you're going to need to continue to assess the viability. I think we ought to work our way backwards from a goal, which is that there are enough vehicles that are on the road that there's a certain level of service that is available. And then we ought to find out what is preventing us from achieving that, and then know how to make some changes. So, this fund can be enormously helpful in deploying a fleet. But again, what we're hearing is from drivers, from a group of drivers, is that as good as that is, it's not going to be enough, that it may not help them successfully recruit or retain drivers. And so, it's only a partial solution. So, I think there's some really challenging macro questions here that we've got to figure out how to evaluate, frankly, because, there's so many different things that we work our way through, and we just sort of land back on this one, in the course of things. But perhaps there's like an OLO review that we could do or something to partner with DOT and just help us get a framework for this. Or maybe DOT can just figure out how to present that to us. But I think it deserves a kind of cyclical review.
So, let me clear, Mr. Raymer's recommendation is what you're approving, but that also means adding to the reconciliation list $150,000 for the expansion of call and ride, and $350,000 for the rec department's bus. Each of those items would also be on the rec list.
That's good.
And like that, in that tranche, just like you described it, 150 and 350, obviously.
The two different items on the rec list, right? And I had suggested you might want to consider putting the driver training on there, but if that's something you don't want to do, that's fine. Didn't sound like you did.
I think maybe hold off on that for this year, you can take it up next year.
So, okay. I'm not hearing anything.
I don't mind putting it on the rec list.
You don't mind? Okay, so, all right.
Everybody's on priority.
That goes in the rec list too.
Right.
Okay.
And we can have a discussion.
Okay. The last item is supplemental appropriation request from the executive, also having to do with the TSIF, for $75,000, which would provide relief to drivers over a 2-month period. I'm sorry, I was looking at the wrong thing here. Get the right packet here. There we go. Adding $75,000 to FY22 budget that come out of the TSIF for payments of two payments of $150 to drivers, registered taxi operators in the county that participated both in call and ride and Medicaid transportation during March and April, actually, I guess the period that just finished. If you approve this, is actually for going for public hearing and action tomorrow, the council. So, what are your druthers on this?
Will you be, I mean, we're losing drivers, as you just said. We still are losing drivers. We've been losing drivers for like 5 years. If we make, I'm all for these payments, are there any assurances you're trying to glean from drivers that if they get one of these payments, they're committing to continue to drive?
These are in arrears at this point. If you
Right.
wanted to expand this and have it be
Because they've already spent the money.
prospective, you could. But we had submitted this quite a while ago, and at this point, it's in arrears. So all we're asking for is evidence that they've driven during these months
Right.
in order to
This is just
make this
reimbursing them
arrangement.
for money that's already out of their pockets.
Yes. So no, there's no assurance they'll continue based on what we've outlined here. But it may be something we have to do again.
Right. Okay.
Well, if this is taking a long time to approve, is it still enough money? When did you give it, when did you ask for this?
This was a March and we did this at the onset of the fuel price surges to give some relief to drivers who are experiencing those gas price surges, and that's still with us.
So
We had intended this to be March and April, and it is March and April, but it's
now
now.
it's May and June.
So if this is going to continue through May and June, it may be a program we want to do another tranche of awards to people who are driving.
Why didn't,
Offset that cost.
I don't know the answer to this. Why didn't we take it up before this, back in March? Was it stuck somewhere?
This is a supplemental to FY '22.
Yes, it's based on the current fuel price circumstances that have emerged in the last 3 months.
Right. This is, I mean, I've only recently learned about it, so I didn't know it was
Yeah.
sitting.
I don't know that it's sad, it's
Session of the
just
council
the
president.
urgency with this and the normal process of getting things done.
And how much would we need in order for, if the surge continues through
It would double this.
fiscal year?
If you-
For the next
It
2
would
months?
double the amount you're doing now if you wanted to add May and June. I don't see any likelihood of the fuel price situation changing, certainly in May.
No.
So suggest we double it?
Is that okay? Yeah.
It's from the TSIF, and there's a healthy fund balance, so it's not a draw on your other resources.
Okay.
Okay. Great.
So if we double it, then that leaves June, that would be May
that
and
would cover
June.
May and June.
Now, there is not one for starting July 1, but we don't know, perhaps the surge will have declined by then.
Perhaps.
So we'll take that up in advance.
So, I'm not sure, are the committee recommending a higher number than 75,000 then, or not?
150,
150, you wanted to do, so you wanted to do 4 months, March, April, May, June?
correct.
Okay.
If the idea is to reimburse drivers for money that's already out of their pockets.
Or will be,
Right.
or will be sent.
In June, yeah.
All right. With that, that's all I got.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, everybody.